one of the recipes that lives rent-free in my fridge is definitely spicy pickled carrots. I love these. They are so delicious. They are refreshing when they're cold. They're very crisp. They're quite healthy as well too. What we'll need for this recipe is about 10 pounds of carrots. We'll need some red onion that we will slice. We will need maybe about a pound of jalapenos. I got 7 of them here. I think we'll go ahead and use these. We'll need some whole black peppercorns. We will need some bay leaves. We will need some oregano, a little bit of salt. Who's over there lurking? We'll see, maybe. And then we'll just make a quick, simple brine of essentially 1-to-1 white vinegar, distilled white vinegar to water. Oh, and then as well as a little bit of garlic as well. The first step is to peel these carrots, and then we will cut them into rounds. So we will slice them horizontally instead of lengthwise. And then same thing here, we will just slice up these. We will kind of finely slice the red onion, crush the garlic, and then we will get everything boiled or starting to boil on a pot, simmering, and then it will kind of cook down. First things first, we'll prep all the vegetables.
What I like to do is I like to cut them on a diagonal. I think the most important part to cutting these carrots is that they are all about the same width. That way we're going to about half cook these so they still have a little bit of crunch and a little bit of tenderness, but we want them all to cook evenly, so having them at about the same width is key here. For the red onions, and I love red onions because they're really sweet, we are just going to slice them up. We're going to kind of take them apart into these larger pieces here, and then we're going to set these aside because unlike the jalapenos and unlike the carrots, these are going to stay uncooked. So once we have the brine made, once we have our carrots at our desired consistency, we're going to go ahead and jar these up, and then we'll just put the raw onions in the jar as well.
So I got my simple brine here. It is a 1-to-1 mixture of distilled white vinegar to water. I have 5 cups in here of vinegar and water. I'm also going to add in about 10 cloves because this is a huge batch of minced garlic here. I'm also going to add in, for the bay leaves, I'm going to add in probably about a dozen bay leaves. I'm also going to add in maybe a few tablespoons of peppercorns. I will do a couple tablespoons of Mrs. Dash, might as well. And then finally for the dried oregano, I'm going to use maybe about 4 tablespoons as well. Really, this is the flavor here, the peppercorns, the oregano, the bay, Mrs. Dash, and then the garlic as well. So what we'll do, we'll add in our spices to this. We will let this get to a simmer on the stove, and then once it's simmering, then we can add in our carrots. And I'm actually going to add in the jalapenos first, so they're at the bottom, and then I'll add the carrots in on top of that. Alright, so we have our garlic, we have our bay leaves, we have our peppercorns, oregano, a couple tablespoons of Mrs. Dash, and what I'll do is I will add in to the description the recipe that I use, and then you can scale up from there because that original recipe just calls for 2 pounds of carrots, and I'm essentially quintupling this recipe. So yeah, use that recipe to scale up however you wish. It may not scale 5-to-1 because even the 2 pounds of carrots, it still calls for 5 cloves of garlic. So just to kind of double that recipe, triple that recipe if you will. I'm going pretty large with this one. Just wanted to show you guys how I make this and how I make this delicious recipe. So what we'll do, we'll get this onto the stove, we will get this simmering, and then we will add in our jalapenos, and then let that do its thing for just a minute or two, kind of let the jalapenos release their flavor, and then we'll add in our massive amount of carrots. So see you then. And the last item I added to this mix too, I kind of forgot, was the salt. I added about 3.5 teaspoons of salt. What I'll do is when this is simmering, I will stir this with a wooden spoon, and then I'll just give it a taste. If it needs more salt, we can add more salt. Now that we have the brine ripping, I'm going to add in the jalapenos, and then I will give it a quick stir. We'll give this about 5 minutes just to kind of let the jalapenos do their thing, kind of release a lot of their flavors, and then we will I have this on medium heat right now. I will drop it to a simmer. We will add the carrots, and then we will just continue to simmer all of this until the carrots are at the desired consistency. We've added in our 1/4-inch sliced carrots, and now we will simmer them until they are the desired consistency. I'm thinking this is about 20-25 minutes. The carrots themselves will reduce a little bit as well, so we'll just kind of keep agitating, keep stirring. All of the jalapenos and the spices are at the bottom, so we will let everything reduce, and we will kind of just keep stirring it. We're going to leave this uncovered until the carrots are a little bit al dente. What we want is them to lose their crunch a little bit, but still retain some of that crunch. Well, here we are at the jarring stage. These 2 jars look fantastic, nice and layered. Got the red onions at the bottom, all that garlic in between. We will let these hang out in the fridge for a few days, and then I'm actually going to put them through the strainer. I'm going to save the brine, and then I'm going to take the carrots out, and the carrots and the jalapenos out, just so I can have them to snack on. So in a couple days we will strain. We'll let the flavors gel together and blend together a little bit, kind of do their thing in the fridge, and we will check in a bit. After a couple days in the fridge, just kind of letting the flavors get to know each other a little bit, what I did was I strained the brine into a separate jar, and in the jar that it was hanging out in the fridge, I put some of the onions back in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the carrots, and I'm just going to kind of tap and rub off some of the garlic and the spices. The last thing you want to do is crunch into a peppercorn. So the flavor has been achieved here. These are nice and spicy, really kind of peppery. Also, yeah, you don't want to eat any of the bay leaves as well. So that's another reason why I separate all this. I'll take the jalapenos and I'll put them in there as well. So we'll just take these, kind of knock off, make sure that there's no peppercorns in there. Some of the seeds from the jalapenos is fine. Some of the garlic is fine, obviously. And then once this jar is filled, we will take the brine and we will fill that jar all the way back up to the top, and that will be it. Real quick, let's give these a taste test. You can hear the crunch in these. And what the cooking does is it really softens the outer bits a little bit. The insides are nice and crunchy, but it does have that soft consistency, which is really good. Oh man, that's delicious. Cooking a little bit of the carrot as well releases some of the natural sugars, so it has a little bit of a sweetness in there, which is really nice. Really get the flavor of the onion, which is nice, and the flavor of the bay and the jalapeno. Again, it's got a little kick to it. Got that nice peppery flavor as well. Overall, delicious recipe. I make this all the time, and these are really nice and crisp and refreshing to eat, really any time of day. So I hope you enjoy this recipe, and let me know in the comments how you make these, or what you think of the recipe. Thanks, everyone.